This paper examines how a resource and psychological narcissist could manipulate and control a Noongar Aboriginal corporation, focusing on the distinct vulnerabilities in such a context. By analysing two perspectives, one from a Noongar viewpoint and the other from a non-Noongar perspective, the paper explores how narcissistic behaviour could undermine governance, cultural integrity and resource management within a corporation dedicated to the Noongar community. Understanding these dynamics is critical to safeguarding cultural and financial resources while ensuring accountability and transparency in Indigenous corporations. Narcissism, particularly resource and psychological narcissism, can have detrimental effects on organizations, especially those deeply rooted in cultural and communal values. A Noongar Aboriginal corporation is a unique entity that represents both economic interests and the preservation of cultural identity for the Noongar people, one of the largest Aboriginal groups in Western Australia. Such corporations hold critical responsibilities, including the management of land, cultural heritage and financial resources for the benefit of the community. However, these organizations are vulnerable to manipulation by individuals who exhibit narcissistic tendencies, those who prioritize their own needs and desires over communal well-being. This paper will analyze how a narcissist might gain control over a Noongar Aboriginal corporation from two different perspectives, one from within the Noongar community and one from a non-Noongar viewpoint. By comparing these perspectives, we can better understand the potential challenges and the means to safeguard Indigenous corporations from such exploitation.
Noongar perspective. Exploiting kinship and cultural values. The Noongar people are rooted in strong kinship ties and a communal approach to decision-making. A resource and psychological narcissist could manipulate these cultural values to gain influence within the corporation. A narcissist in this context would likely exploit the deep respect for elders and traditional knowledge, presenting themselves as a guardian of Noongar culture while covertly prioritizing their own self-interests. They may cultivate an image of cultural stewardship, using it to win trust and acceptance within the community. One way they could do this is by aligning themselves with influential elders or key decision-makers, feigning respect and loyalty, while subtly steering the corporation's resources for personal or political gain. Given the cultural emphasis on collective responsibility and respect for elders, the narcissist's actions might go unchecked for some time, particularly if they are seen as a figure who outwardly embodies cultural values.
Suppressing dissent through psychological manipulation. Psychological narcissists are often skilled in manipulating the emotions and perceptions of others. In the context of a Noongar Aboriginal corporation, a narcissist could suppress dissent by creating divisions within the community, pitting individuals or groups against one another. They may present themselves as the indispensable leader, positioning themselves as someone without whom the corporation cannot function effectively. By using tactics like gaslighting, manipulation of information, and selective dissemination of resources, the narcissist could create an environment where opposing views are marginalized or seen as disruptive to the corporation's progress. This kind of manipulation could particularly undermine the traditional collective decision-making process that is integral to Noongar governance, turning it into a top-down structure dominated by the narcissist's influence.
Non-Noongar perspective. Manipulation of governance structures. From a non-Noongar perspective, the control exercised by a resource and psychological narcissist over a Noongar Aboriginal corporation may appear as a calculated manipulation of governance structures. Indigenous corporations, like the ones representing Noongar people, are often bound by specific legal frameworks that govern their operations, such as the Corporations, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Act 2006, CATSI Act. A narcissist might exploit loopholes in these governance frameworks to consolidate power and limit accountability. For example, the narcissist could gain influence over the corporation's board by using charisma or coercion to sway elections in their favor. Once in a position of authority, they might ensure that decisions related to resource allocation and external partnerships are made without adequate consultation. keeping important stakeholders, both internal and external, out of critical conversations. In doing so, they could maintain control over the corporation's finances, land management strategies, and decision-making processes, redirecting resources in ways that benefit themselves rather than the community. Isolation of external allies and funders. A narcissist in a leadership position within a Noongar Aboriginal corporation could isolate external allies such as government agencies, funding bodies, and non-Indigenous organizations from meaningful engagement with the corporation. They may act as a gatekeeper, controlling all communication between the corporation and external parties. To maintain their control, they could present an image of competence and progress to outsiders while restricting access to information that might reveal internal issues. This isolation would not only protect the narcissist from external scrutiny, but also allow them to manipulate the narrative, portraying themselves as the reason for the corporation's success. If funders or government agencies question the corporation's progress, the narcissist might blame internal dissent or external factors beyond their control, deflecting accountability while maintaining power.
Comparative analysis, Noongar versus non-Noongar perspectives. The Noongar and non-Noongar perspectives offer complementary insights into how a resource and psychological narcissist could manipulate an Indigenous corporation. From the Noongar viewpoint, the narcissist's exploitation of kinship and cultural values presents a significant internal threat to community cohesion and cultural integrity. The narcissist's ability to manipulate relationships and decision-making processes would erode traditional governance systems based on respect, reciprocity, and collective responsibility. From a non-Noongar perspective, the narcissist's manipulation of governance structures and isolation of external stakeholders highlights the external vulnerabilities of the corporation. This perspective focuses on how a narcissist could exploit legal and financial systems, bypassing checks and balances designed to ensure transparency and accountability. By controlling communication with external stakeholders, the narcissist could prolong their influence while maintaining a facade of progress and stability. Conclusion. A resource and psychological narcissist poses a complex threat to the integrity of a Noongar Aboriginal corporation. From the internal dynamics of exploiting kinship and cultural values to the external manipulation of governance and funders, the narcissist can undermine both cultural and financial aspects of the corporation. Safeguarding against such exploitation requires a multifaceted approach, including strengthening governance frameworks, ensuring transparency in decision-making, and fostering cultural resilience within the community. Understanding these dynamics from both Noongar and non-Noongar perspectives is crucial in protecting the interests of Indigenous corporations and ensuring they serve their intended purpose, the preservation and advancement of Noongar culture and resources.